So I knew that I would be here 3 weeks in a row, and I knew that last Sunday would be followed by this Sunday, which is going to be followed by next Sunday. So I didn't want to repeat too much stuff. I wanted to kind of connect some dots. So I said to Timothy, could you just give me the highlight of what I said, the highlight of the theme of what I talked about last Sunday in Brookline? And he was like, oh man, dude, you're going to have to watch it. Like, you had so many things. I cannot give you a highlight. It was like 6 sermons in one. And it was like, they said, so you should watch it. And I was like, no, that's the last thing I want to do. I don't want to watch it. No, I'll just trust in the Spirit, and we'll just see what happens. I don't want to revisit it. And I went somewhere, came back into my room, and Timothy had it on. And I'm really glad I watched it. I would not have been able to pick out a single or a particular theme to build upon, because it was pretty much a review of, I believe, everything I've spoken about, or the highlights of everything that I've spoken about since it's been my privilege to be a part of this wonderful ministry. But there were a couple of things that did stand out for me and that I took on personally as homework. One of the things that I was reminding us of last week is that all of the power is ours, and in some cases we have perhaps given our power away. We've given our power away to circumstances, past experiences, or to people, sometimes for reasons we can no longer even recall. And that we always have an opportunity to take our power back. We always have an opportunity to resurrect from any experience of seeming incarceration or crucifixion. I spoke last week about how they used to catch monkeys in Africa, and that the monkeys would pretty much catch themselves. I said that they would take a gourd and they would cut off the top of the gourd, and they would put a nut in there that the monkeys loved to eat. The gourd hole was only big enough for a monkey to slide its hand in. The hand had to be empty, and the monkey had to slide it in flat in order to grab that nut. The gourd was tied to a stake in the ground. We talked about how once those monkeys grabbed a hold of the nut that they wanted so much, they would try to pull their hand out of the gourd, but because their hand was in a fist holding on to that nut, it was impossible for them to remove their hand from the gourd. And the interesting thing was that all of the monkeys were so stuck on holding on to what they felt they needed to have that they would not drop that nut and remove their hand. We talked about how all the other monkeys had seen this happen to many monkeys, and that whenever a monkey would be caught in a gourd, some of the smart monkeys in the jungle would start yelling and screaming like, hey, you need to let go of that. You need to release that, because the hunter is coming. If you want to live, you must let go of what you're holding on to. And an interesting thing was that wherever they tied a rope around a gourd and stuck it to a stake, they always knew that when they went back up the path, they would have a monkey. It might have appeared that the hunters caught the monkey, but the truth is the monkey caught itself. It may have appeared as though it was an impossible situation for that monkey to get out of there before it lost its life and became someone's dinner. But it was not an impossible situation. It was a requirement that the monkeys were not willing to fulfill in order to be free. It was a requirement to let go of whatever it is you're holding on to. And we reminded ourselves that we are not monkeys, and we are not in Africa, and our hand is not stuck in a gourd. But it does me well to question, well, what are you holding on to, Carlos? What is it that your spirit is guiding you to let go of in order that you might live, in order that you might be free? I do periodic examinations of Carlos's life. I figure if somebody doesn't handle Carlos, he's just going to get lost. And so I've made it my business to watch him, to study him, to govern him, and to preside over his mind and over his heart. Because I don't want the hunter getting him. I want him to live, and I want him to live more and more fully, more and more joyously, more and more peacefully, more and more abundantly. I want it all for this guy. And that's why I spend my time studying. What is he up to now? I haven't really checked in on him in a deep way in about a month. Let me see if that rookie is still in the garden, or if he has stepped outside of Eden for some reason that he thinks is important enough to leave the Garden of Peace. And I tell you, growth is never finished. I'm still working on me, and I will be working on me every day that I am here. Because there's no point of arrival at which my work is done. It's a continuum, it's a process, and there's always higher ground to get to. Sometimes I've noticed in my life, and I don't know if you have perhaps noticed in yours, that you are holding on to something that had to do with what is called the past. I've had times in my life where I was holding on to a grievance. I was holding on to something that occurred back then, but for me, it was still occurring right now because I had the picture and the experience so alive in my mind, and I kept replaying it and replaying it and replaying it. When I was in grade school, the Springfield, Illinois, the state fair was in Springfield, and we got so excited towards spring because we knew that the state fair was coming. And colored boys in Springfield, Illinois, back in the 1950s, had a couple of ways that they could earn money for the fair. One of the most popular ways for boys to earn money when I was a kid in Springfield, Illinois, was to be a shoe shine boy. We knew that we could shine shoes like downtown, and that we could make our own little box, get our own paste, get our own brush. We also knew that they allowed a certain number of colored boys to shine shoes outside of the state fair gate. It was a dusty state fair. So we knew that as people were coming out, they would allow, they would not let any white boys shine shoes. They felt it was too demeaning back then. So we got to shine shoes. So we started out shining shoes before the fair started, before school had its last day, and we were excited to shine them at the fair. Well, I had shined some shoes and I had made some money, and I remember that I had gotten together $5. I took all my change to the store, and I had them give me bills for it. And I found out that I had over $5, so I had them give me a $5 bill. Me having a $5 bill was a big deal, and it was a rare thing. I could not wait to go to school and brag about my prosperity, to kind of rub it in people's face. Oh, you don't have any money yet? Oh, well, I got $5. So I let everybody know about the $5, and I put it in my little cubby. I came back after lunch to see a couple of my friends running away from my cubby. And when I got there, my $5 was gone. That happened on Friday right after lunchtime. On Sunday night, my dad found me on the back porch, sulking and angry and shaking with rage, and going over and over and over in my mind about how I wanted Michael Thompson and Billy Bardwell to get what was coming to them, because I know them rookies are the rascals that took my money. And my dad sat down next to me and said, Carly, you have been miserable all weekend. We've had company over. We've gone to the lake. We've gone fishing. We've had some great food. You got to watch Bonanza, and through it all, the fishing, the swimming, the food, even watching Bonanza, you showed your misery to everybody in the house. It was as though someone had taken your world away. This is what I want to tell you. And I said, Daddy, you know what happened to me. You know my $5 got stolen. And Dad said that happened around about a quarter after noon on Friday. They took your $5. You gave them your weekend. You gave them your peace. And he said, that's an interesting thing to give someone who had already robbed you. They took your money You gave them your happiness too. And this has happened in my life. Even though my dad schooled me when I was in grade school, I have repeated this lesson in my life. I have had not people literally take $5 from me, but I've had people do things that I invoice them as, you made me sad, you made me mad, you did me wrong. And I've noticed that they did whatever they did in a moment on a day, and sometimes I gave them my peace of mind for not only a weekend, I gave some of them my peace of mind for a couple of years. Every time I thought of them, my peace of mind was gone, and my declaration was, they took it. No, they didn't. I gave it away. So sometimes when I look at my life, I ask myself, what is there that I'm holding on to that looks like a grievance, that looks like an attitude, that looks like a willingness to play the victim so that I can assign the role of perpetrator to someone out there? Oh yes, I am hurting and it is your fault. Yeah, I'm sad and you made me sad. Oh, I don't trust anybody because you dogged me. I'm holding on to that. I've also noticed sometimes upon self-examination that I have been holding on to something that wasn't a grievance. I've been holding on to a story of when things were so wonderful.